My lips have almost healed. Almost. They still look kind of crazy. I need a chemical peel like whoa. Wow, I haven't said like whoa since high school. What is up, guys? Welcome back. It is the end of December and effectively the end of the year, pretty much the way that Christmas and New Year's fall this year. I wanted to go ahead and get a head start on these videos. So this is my annual regrets video. And when I say regrets, it doesn't really mean regrets because I never regret buying something to try for you guys. Whether I like something or not, I would rather have a credible opinion, but you know what I mean. So I wanted to do the video a little bit differently this year. As I was pulling all this stuff from my bad bin, as Tati dubbed it back in the day, I noticed I have a full face here. More than a full face, really. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna apply some of this stuff so that I can like remember why I hate it. And I'm also gonna talk about some of the other stuff because there isn't room for all of it on my face, but I do think that that would be fun. And who knows, maybe I'll have a change of heart on something. But well, I do want to have a little disclaimer here because in the past, it's only been a handful of people, but I have gotten comments in the past that are like, wow, does she like anything? It's a fails video. Like, I am going to dislike everything that I talk about in this video today. I'm just gonna say it. So if you love something that I did not end up liking, that is the beauty of individuality, and it is also why I always say there are so many reasons that I dislike something that could be the exact reason that it is perfect for you. So without further ado, guys, let's start putting some not that great makeup on my face. Oh, hello fam. Hello fam. Hi. I don't know. All right, the first thing I want to talk about today is the entire release of Rare Beauty. I feel like I got extra disappointed by this release because it was so hyped, like expectation versus reality. And in that video, granted, it was before I got my HD camera, but I did show at the end of the video, at the end of the wear test, my face in natural lighting with my vlog camera. By the way, I found this old PR mailer of Sigma brushes, and that means I don't have to clean brushes because they're brand new. I did a really intense close-up, and you could see that, yes, you know, this goes on pretty nicely, but it doesn't wear that nicely, at least on my skin. And the comments that I got about that were that you should have used the illuminating primer. I'm here to tell you I shouldn't have to buy a primer to make a foundation perform. None of the other foundations that I buy at Sephora require that I buy a certain primer in order to make them illuminating. And I also saw some comments from people saying I bought the illuminating primer and it made no difference to me. So the advantage, I think the really good call out of the Rare Beauty release was how specific and expansive, extensive, thorough the shade ranges were. I'm not going to say that everything in this collection that I talk about is like bad for every single reason. I just didn't like the way this wore on my skin because it made me look older. Like right now it's nice and dewy, but when it dries down, it just kind of sucks the moisture out of your face over the day. It might have like hyaluronic acid in it or something that might do that. Oh, also everybody said that this concealer was too light for me, so we're just gonna use it sparingly. I don't love this concealer either. For the same reason, I feel like it just made me look old. And my solution to it today is to apply very little. I did really go in on that review because I wanted to show what the product was capable of in more extreme circumstances, but I feel like the answer to anything that isn't that great is to just not apply as much of it, you know? I also didn't like most of this collection. The only thing that I really did like was the highlighter, and I liked the creamy lip balm things, although they were definitely misnomers, like they are lipsticks. But I just wanted to include these as a brain marker to just talk about the release in general because I had such high hopes for it and I was pretty disappointed. Another reason that this is kind of an unfair comparison is because I just got Botox when I did the wear test before I was pregnant. I couldn't get Botox and I feel like it exposed the weaknesses of the makeup even more at the end of the day because my forehead wrinkled and it gathered everywhere and I did not powder it. This actually doesn't even have a powder in the collection and it wears as if it's been powdered. It dries down and then it just keeps drying down. I wish it stayed as dewy as it does right when you put it on because it's actually a really beautiful satin skin texture in the very beginning, but it's almost like a hyaluronic acid that needs something moisturizing between you and the product because it feels like instead of pulling moisture from the air, it's pulling it out of my skin. I don't even know if this has hyaluronic acid in it, but that's how it behaves. Oh, I have a lot of cheap products that I didn't like. Okay, so this actually was technically this year. This was in the beginning of this year. This is one of those brands that I had held off on buying or trying for so long because I was all into clean beauty in 2019, and I jumped at the opportunity to try this right as we kicked off 2020, and this is the KKW Beauty Powder Contour and Highlight Kit. Again, I included this in the basket because I just wanted to remind myself to talk about this. I think we might even try and use the Artist Muse palette today too. This is an incredibly frustrating formula. Wow, all of her formulas are incredibly frustrating. I'm going to show it to you guys. I'm gonna start with the contour, which, by the way, the biggest issue that I have with this is that it doesn't kick up enough. And so I end up gumming the top of it over all the time. I actually have the HDness to be able to show that to you guys now. And you can see I've like scraped it off. Ooh, we are not gonna talk about my nails, okay? That's off limits. I've scraped the top off of that so many times and it still just continues to gum up. Please appreciate the ambiance offered by my dog. God, look at how patchy that is. Granted, I am putting it on top of something that hasn't been powdered, but like I said, this foundation really dries down like it's been powdered. I'm picking up the moisture from my face and I'm redepositing it into the pan, and I can see it happening, which is such a shame because I love the color of this contour. I did not, however, like the color of this bronzer. And there are actually a couple of bronzers in here, so I won't use this one. We will kind of move on so that we can show some variety, but you can see that that's not a bad color, and if I work hard enough at it, I can get it to work, but it's already like building that gummy layer back on the top, and it's just an incredibly frustrating product to use. I've said this before, but I think that the makeup industry has come a long way in recent years, and brands just aren't allowed to put out things that are like abysmally horrible. They just have like one fatal flaw typically, and like the shade on this contour, like I said, is not bad. It's just that the formula is really, really frustrating, and eventually you just stop picking product up until you want to scrape the top layer off again. And that is just kind of enough for me to not reach for it ever again. I don't love the highlights in this either. They are too cool and too icy. I feel like people assume that if you have fair skin that you only want to wear cool tones, and that's just not the case. That is why this is a fail, and I do think I'm going to use the Artist Muse today because I don't have another eyeshadow palette in here. I've pretty much loved every eyeshadow palette that I tried this year, so it's gonna be tough picking a favorite for my next video. All right, the next bronzer, again, kind of a placeholder, is the Ilia, and this is the Drawn In Nightlight Bronzing Powder. This is the fairer of the two shades, I think. And this came out like at the exact same time as the Kosas bronzer. I also wanted to mention that I don't like the Kosas bronzer. I gave it to my sister already, that's why I don't have it on hand. I didn't like it because these share the same issue. Even their fairer shade is way too warm, like way too orange. And for me, I'm just saying, if you're gonna put out a bunch of shades, you know, I just didn't end up with a shade that worked in this. And while I really like this formula, as you can see, it actually does kick up, which I love. The Kosas one is soups glittery. Ooh, ooh, so warm. Oh, it's so warm. Ooh. You guys see what I'm talking about, how hard it is for me to find a bronzer. This is why I harp incessantly on how much I love the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, or when I find a bronzer, like the Hourglass one or like the Arrive one, why I love them so much, because a little bit of cool tone in a bronzer goes such a long way for me. And I don't necessarily think it's just a paleness issue. I think that it's an undertones thing. Not everybody looks like this when they get a tan. And so I need something that has a little bit of gray in it, or just a little less orange, maybe peach. Peach works great, just like the Salt New York Cream bronzer on me, the light shade. It has peach in it because that's what my skin does in the sun. This is not what my skin does in the sun. It looks crazy. Oh man. I remember watching Tati's old videos, and she is super warm complected, even though she loves to wear purple. And she would always do the Scott Barnes contour method, but she'd do it with like a bronzer shade, and I was always shocked that it worked. She never used a cool tone contour. All her contouring was done with like cream orange tan, and I was like, how are you pulling that off? I look crazy with that color on my face. It makes everything else look so pale by comparison. Woof. I also, guys, I think that in the new year, I'm going to just embrace, and this is, you guys let me know how you feel about this. I'm gonna go ahead and embrace the fact that China is lifting their animal testing laws on imported makeup and stuff, and so they aren't going to be ostensibly animal testing. We already talked about post-market testing and how that can happen everywhere, and that's why I have started using like First Aid Beauty and why I am undecluttering this, the physician's formula. And it's because I want to start offering a little bit more inclusivity on my channel going forward, and that includes drugstore, things that have more shades to them. And I think that in 2021, like, I am considering those things to be cruelty-free, or that cruelty-free is no longer really an issue unless we're talking about, I think it's like deodorants and shampoos and stuff like that that are still gonna have to be tested, but makeup, cosmetics, those are not. Again, let me know how you feel. We're not necessarily flipping a switch today and I'm abandoning all of my cruelty-free people. That's not my point. I still think that everything is going to technically be cruelty-free by those standards. But I also had this idea where I was like, you know, I don't think Tati's coming back. If you're new to my channel, I love Tati. She's the reason I started a review channel, and she really disappointed me. Her fall from grace was super disappointing for me, okay? I've always admired her integrity until she, you know, found Jeffree Star, but regardless, I loved her WTF series, and I just don't think that she's ever, even if she comes back, she's not going to bring back the WTF series, and I kind of want to do one. Not call it that, but like, maybe like a, would you pay this much for this product kind of thing? I don't know. That was my favorite thing on her channel. That was how I found her, was just like the absurdity of the WTF series. Let me know, guys. I want to start including things that are further afield, flung further, as far as a spectrum of cost, to have a little bit more fun, have a little bit more inclusivity, but also be a little bit more ridiculous. It's all about balance, right? Okay, so my face is l'orange right now, and that is why I do not love that particular bronzer. If you look at this shade and you're like, that's a shade that totally works for me, the formula is beautiful. I think they did a great job with the formulation. They did a very good job with the actual shade for fair skin. And actually, the one from Lauren Conrad is kind of just as bad, but I wanted to talk about the Lauren Conrad one for a different reason. So we started with the initial Lauren Conrad release, and I really liked what she put out first. If you haven't watched that video, I'm gonna go ahead and recap the whole thing for you so you don't have to. I loved the first release because there were some pretty remarkable formulas in there, mainly her eyeliner. Her eyeliner is incredible, but also they were all products that would work for everybody. There were no complexion products yet. Nothing that you could argue was like only for white girls. And then this release came out, she only came out with one bronzer. They admit this was a fail because they pulled it, because they got some criticism that there were no shades. And so I needed to landmark that particular fail. And also I just don't think we're gonna be coming back to Lauren Conrad. Not necessarily for that reason, but just for the reason that it's pretty unremarkable. Also, Hallie texted me and told me that Kohl's is going to have a Sephora within Kohl's now, and they're divorcing themselves from all of the beauty brands that they were carrying, all their makeup brands. And I'm like, oh, Lauren Conrad, is that tea? Like, that's pretty crazy. That sounds like a knee-jerk thing. Like someone came in with the big bucks and they were like, sorry, Lauren Conrad. Again, that's hearsay, but makeup tea. All right, moving into the blushes that done me wrong this year. We have quite a few here. I'm gonna start with this one because it comes with the entire disclaimer that I love 99% of the things that M Cosmetics makes, okay? And they have been kind enough to send me so many things to try for you guys on my channel, and I am eternally grateful for that. And so much of their stuff is unbelievable in terms of the formula and the shades. This was the exception because I had such high expectations for it and I just don't love it. And this is her color drops. This just happens to be the shade Peachy Peach, but I have tons of shades in this and I just don't like the formula. It is too sheer, and it doesn't have any dry down to it, and it just stays sticky. So it's like when I wanna build this up on my face in the way that I prefer to wear blush, which is high saturation, watercolor layers, making it look really nice and diffused, but pretty intense. I like to have intense blush on my cheeks. This, when you build it, it gets too sticky before you get the color saturation that you want. I find it really frustrating. And I think that they're a little bit expensive. I also think that this packaging could use some work. It's very pretty and it has a great idea to it, but this little thing doesn't really work. Like, there's nothing in there. I've never actually been able to use the dropper. Oh, that worked. I guess you have to do that. But you can't do it while it's in the actual container. Either way, air gets trapped. It's a little frustrating. We're going to do powder on my cheeks today, so I wanna go ahead and get the creams out of the way. So this was another one that did not work for me. This is Cheek Slime by Freck. Freck is a brand, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm not gonna say that you're too old for it. I'm going to say that Freck is too young for me. The actual Freck product that makes the freckles, so dynamite. Such a cool product. Very effective for what it does, at least on my particular skin tone. But the remaining offerings, the eye pigment palette, the OMF, oh my God, that's what it's called. It was just too young for me. Honestly, the colors just didn't appeal to me, and working with pigments is fine and everything, but I just found that it was just not something that appealed to me that much. This though, I could have made it work if I liked the formula because it's actually a very pretty color, but the formula on this dries down so fast and it's so intensely pigmented that it's almost impossible to get it to really perform in a way that I found to be user-friendly enough that I would ever reach for it again or recommend it to anybody. I think that anybody coming to cream cheek products or cream products in general, the beauty of them is that they are so forgiving, and this is a very unforgiving liquid blush, so that's why it gets a pass from me. And the last liquid blush situation here, I did say we are going to come back to Physicians Formula here on my channel, but I would not recommend this. This is the Organic Wear Dewy Blush Elixir, which just sounds like heaven, doesn't it? It is also a sticky mess. I put this on and I was just like, ugh, it like doesn't dry down. It's really intensely pigmented. It stays gooey. Stays gooey dewy. And that might just be a preference thing, but if you like wearing as much blush as I do, things that don't have any semblance of dry down and that are not intensely pigmented are always going to frustrate you. Before I move into putting blush on my face, I forgot to talk about this. This is probably, like, when I think about fails of the year, this is the first thing that comes to mind, probably because it was so expensive. I think this was like $38 or something. This is the new Kierweiss. I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing it right, but this is their concealer that they came out with. First of all, I don't know why they needed to come out with a concealer because their foundation, their cream foundation, makes a beautiful concealer. It is a really buildable formula. I think it works great as a foundation and a concealer. I also don't know why they needed to come out with a liquid foundation. I digress. The liquid foundation didn't make it into my fails necessarily, but it would make it into a packaging fails video because it's a very frustrating package, but it's not a bad foundation. I didn't dislike it, but it's not also going to like rise to the top of my favorite things. This is an extremely disappointing formula, and I have seen some people make it work, but I have tried this way more than once. Way more than when you guys saw it in the video, because honestly, I want to make this work. I really do. It's ingenious. I think this is plastic, but this is replaceable, and then this comes up. I don't know. Either way, it's all, you know, their bougie, reusable container situation, or at least an attempt at it. I'm not really sure. This weighs a ton, but here's the issue. This is one of the driest, most inconsistent formulas I've ever used. It patches up, it grabs everything underneath my eyes, and it's because the main ingredient in it is kaolin clay. And to me, I think that that's why it looks like clay on my face, why it grabs so much. And kaolin clay is also an ingredient that they put in like blemish clearing masks. You know, it pulls moisture out of your skin. It's not creamy. It doesn't really do a very good job concealing anything, and the texture on the skin is just gross. So yeah, this was a huge fail for me, like an instant fail, although I did give it a lot of tries. All right, let's put some blush on because I know y'all are tired of looking at my orange cheeks, although I'm not sure it's really going to improve. So I have two fails here for two different reasons. One, man, I like almost everything from ColourPop, but I do not like their powder blush formula. I learned that the hard way. I ordered the Mauve, Making Mauves? Is that what it's called? Palette, and this was one of the blushes that came with it. This is Catch My Vibe. And I truly despise this formula. Oh, it's just dusty. It's honestly like, it's not creamy enough. It's super dry. It doesn't blend well at all. It grabs, it's too pigmented. It honestly feels almost like a pressed pigment on the skin. It's just icky. And there's no nuance to this shade either. I shouldn't necessarily be talking about the shade, but there's absolutely no nuance to that shade. It goes on your skin and it's just like, blah! So that's personal, but it's also how I feel. And then the other one, guys, I don't really know how to talk about this because I got so much pushback when I talked about this in my Charlotte Tilbury review video. This is the Cheek to Chic and Pillow Talk. This apparently is not the high intensity. It was not marked as high intensity on the box. It was not marked as high intensity when I bought it, but it looks different, people say, from all of the Pillow Talk that they have. Because I mean, Pillow Talk is supposed to be almost like a pinky nude shade, and this was like a pinky nude shade for not my skin tone. You know what I mean? It looks like it's meant for a deeper complexion. And so it also really frustrated me because I feel like it's very glittery, like very, very shimmery, not glittery, shimmery. And somebody said, you need to watch a tutorial on how she uses it because there's a swish and a pop. I get the swish and pop concept, but like, how am I supposed to get a brush into this little tiny margin and then a little brush into this little, and then this is like practically a highlighter. So I mean, I guess that's a pop. So I'm gonna try and do it your way, whoever left me that comment, and I'm gonna swish and then I'm gonna attempt to pop, okay? All right, here we go. I'm gonna swish. Very lightly. Oh, it's so shiny. Do you see that? Ew. Ew, I don't even have texture on my skin. We need blur, fam. I'm going on 34. I need blur, okay? All right, swish. Again, not a terrible color, but the actual finish on the product doesn't work for me. Okay, let's attempt to pop, shall we? Pop. Pop. Oh God, I'm so shimmery. It's fine. I'm gonna keep it, but like, ugh. Charlotte Tilbury. I had such high hopes for this blush. I kind of thought that if it said Pillow Talk on it, it was foolproof, you know? It's kind of like Tarte Shape Tape or Born This Way foundation. I don't know. It's just such an OG color and formula combination that you feel like, well, it might be basic. No one's gonna want to hear my review about it because everybody's talked about it so much, but at least I know I'll like it. Nope, didn't like it. And I still wonder whether I got like, I don't know, a different pan than is supposed to be in there because it says Pillow Talk without any kind of high intensity situation. And I checked the box and I checked my order because that has happened to me before. Okay, that happened to me with the Tower 28 bronzer. They sent everybody the wrong shade in that bronzer. I didn't have any highlighters that wronged me, but I did want to talk briefly about the Wayne Goss blushes because I talked about how I didn't really love these. And while they have not risen to favorite status, I realized that I do love this highlighter. The formula specifically. This is not my favorite blush. I do feel like even in the fairest shades, a lot of these are a little bit too pigmented. They're just a little bit more like professional. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I do think that it might be over some people's heads in terms of just ordering a blush that they can use every day without really thinking. But this one is pretty darn good. This is the Coral Rose. This is probably the only one that I would recommend to myself to buy if I could go back in time because it's the only one that really works on me. And that's probably because all the other ones are like meant for different skin tones kind of thing. But this right here, this highlight is gorgeous and I don't have a highlight that I hate. And so I'm going to use this. This is, I saw it in a video when I put it on and I was like, wait a second, that is a perfect highlighter. Because it looks, okay, well, kind of gold on the skin, whatever, and it comes in a bunch of different shades, but the actual texture that it leaves is as if your skin is blurred, not accentuating texture. And that's what he is always going for when he talks about using it on different like skin ages, is that this is a texture that is not going to bring out all of your imperfections. It genuinely just looks like your skin is smoother. So I always feel like I have to correct the record when there's nuanced things like that. So while I didn't love this entire formula, I really like the highlighters. I really, really do. And that also kind of helped the whole situation. I needed to pink that up a little bit because the blushes that I was wearing were just really, really warm. Okay, so I just did my brows with my regular Thrive brow pencil. That is not a fail at all. I don't have any brow pencils other than like the Rare Beauty probably, but I already talked about that. I didn't really love that one because it was like that dash shape. That's a preference thing. I do, however, have a brow product that failed me this year to the point that I am not going to apply it to my face today. It's that bad. It would actually ruin my ability. I would have to go wash my face after this, and I don't want to do that. So it is this. This is the Say Brow Butter. Okay, Say Beauty is what I think they're called. This, oh, that's right. I wouldn't be able to apply it even if I wanted to. Okay, so I have had this, how long does it take for this to expire? It doesn't even have that on it. I have had this since like, maybe February, March, something like that. Like, yeah, I think it was like March, maybe April. Oh my God, that's so nasty. Ew, 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 ew. That is their brow butter as it exists right now. And this is what it looks like when you smooth it all out. It looks kind of like a lip gloss. And that's exactly how it stays. It doesn't have any dry down. And so in that video, it's hilarious. I can apply it and then I give it like 5 minutes while we're talking about something else just so that I can drive the point home. And then I take the palm of my hand and I do like this and I have a stamp of my eyebrow on my hand. Because this doesn't dry down, it just stays there forever and it's actually got color to it. And so it is really dangerous. You could have just like brown oily streaks all over your face at any time of day. It doesn't have any hold, it doesn't dry, it's just nasty. It is the grossest. So yeah, no Say Beauty. And also I should just mention this entire release disappointed me pretty much across the board. I still will probably use the lip gloss today. This was the least disappointing, but I still think it costs too much for what it is. But the mascara was also a fail for me. It smudged like crazy. Oh, that's right. We were gonna do an eye look with the KKW by Mario release. And I haven't tried any of the Mario, Makeup by Mario. I don't even want to talk about that lip gloss. We will find that freaking lip gloss, okay? What in the heck did I do with that lip gloss? That is ridiculous. I don't know. But either way, let's go ahead and try and use this because this is a very, very frustrating formula. Setting myself up for success as usual. Gonna go in with this cool toned kind of khaki shade. I've been watching, like I mentioned in my last video, a lot of Jamie French makeup and movies. And I know that Bailey Sarian technically like started that genre, but I was already subscribed to Jamie and I had never heard of Bailey Sarian at the time. So I need to go check her channel out. But in the meantime, I've just been watching tons of Jamie French. I don't know why, but I feel like I forgot how good she actually is at makeup also. It's not my style of makeup necessarily, but I watched her do a halo eye the other day and she actually used a much smaller brush than this. So maybe I'll try it with a smaller brush. I don't know if I have a smaller brush. That's the problem. Either way, she did a really lovely job and I'm going to try and mimic what she did, although she uses a much smaller brush. And I don't feel like going and hunting down the rest of my brushes. So when she closes her eye, it's like the halo goes in that direction and it goes all the way up and mine doesn't. Maybe we will remedy that with the lighter shade that I use. But it looks enchanting when she does it. Like the actual optical illusion really gets driven home. I just had to get up to change my battery. And when I sat back down, I was like, oh God, that's a gross color on my skin. It's like a coffee color, but it leans way too yellow green. It might just be that it doesn't go with the makeup that I have on my face. I also really commend Jamie French on her ability to make very good articulated sentences. Which I am not capable of, while doing really involved makeup looks, like contouring her face and doing really, really pretty eyeshadow and stuff. Yeah, this halo eye is not really working, is it? I can hear people screaming at me. They're like, you're using too big of a brush. I don't feel like going and grabbing another one right now. It'll mess up my white balance. Fine. I have this tiny little one from Makeup Geek. I'll use that. Yeah, I don't really like this formula, and then I also just did not love the shade choices in here, because anytime you want to start building any kind of crease or something like that, you have nothing cool toned. It's all warm, and it's all really frustrating in that sense, because just the choices that they made, they're very, very strange, you know? It's like I can see any of these coexisting with something that helped them make sense, but these don't make sense with the shades that they're included with. So we're just gonna be playing it safe today with probably like the shimmers and stuff. But yeah, like this red, Mario's Muse, I don't know, maybe Kim Kardashian can wear that, but I freaking can't. But yeah, I definitely feel like this was a year of very good makeup releases. I'm always more excited to film this version of the two videos than the other one, just because the favorites video is so hard to plan. Like this one, I'm like, well, I have a bin full of things that I know I didn't like, and that makes it very easy for me. But the other one is just, oh my gosh, it's so, I feel like a lot of pressure declaring something best of the best at the end of the year, because I try so many things, they're all so good, and then having to actually discern which ones are really good and which ones are like exquisite game changing, I wish it was not as difficult as it is. But I think I am going to be doing a pretty big declutter at the end of the year. Are we achieving this? Is this working? I'm not really sure. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going anywhere. I'm never going anywhere, let's be real. All right, gonna go in with the fair shade here and just blendy, attempt to blendy. And even though I'm able to make these shades work, there are other neutral palettes that I prefer. Let's just put it that way. Oh, how do you do a halo eye? Do you do it like this with yeah, with a matte shade in the middle? Pretty. And then we'll do a little shimmer moment. I feel like I'm kind of doing myself a disservice in this video, because I am making some of these look better than they are. And I feel like that's because I know what I don't like about them, and so I kind of know how to work around it. But the way I'm working around it in this particular palette is that I'm only using like the neutral matte shades. I'm not going into anything that would really be the selling point of this particular palette. And it wasn't cheap. I think this is like a $40 palette. And then there's like this shade NYC to LA, which is like a satin brown copper for some reason. I like don't understand why that shade is in the palette when there's all of these other browns, and then suddenly there's just like a satin brown. It's not a shimmer. It's not cool toned. It's just a very, I don't know. The decisions that were made in this palette are very, very strange to me. It's not as bad as like last year we had some really good eyeshadow fails. That RMS palette from last year was so utterly bad. From the shade choices to the formula, so bad. And actually RMS did just come out with another eyeshadow palette, and I thought that it actually looked pretty cool, but I am wise to that formula, okay? I know that that formula would disappoint me. Also, a lot of people ask me why I wrote RMS off of my channel, because I did used to use a good bit of RMS products. The reason is it's manyfold, but the main reason is all of the articles and all the different anecdotes that other creators have shared with me about how Rosemary of RMS is very anti-influencer. She thinks that we're all liars, basically. And I just found that to be really offensive. So I just don't really see why I would want to, you know, spend my money on her, frankly, very expensive products. Yep, and we're getting a little bit patchy as I'm trying to kind of build that crease. As you can see. Yeah, I don't have an eyeliner shade in that palette, so I'm just gonna go into my No BS palette because it's sitting in front of me. Okay. I feel like I was able to make something really pretty happen on my eyes, but mainly it's because I was following the memorized paint by number that I saw on Jamie French the other day. Okay, so the only other items that I have as fails in this little bin are all mascaras, and they are for different reasons. So these two are because I am on what I have basically determined to be a completely futile mission to find a clean mascara that does not smudge. The best that I felt like I could do was actually the Jones Road Beauty, and I ended up buying that one for my sister for Christmas, which you know is a vote of confidence. She said that the Thrive was heavy on her lashes and it was starting to flake too much, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy you the Jones Road because I think you're gonna really like it. It does, it builds tons of volume and doesn't smudge very easily. It also is an absolute B word to rinse off of your eyes. It is unreal to get off. But these two, wow. I'm not gonna say I hated them, but they definitely smudge. I love the results of the Kosas, the Big Clean. Oh my God, it builds such gorgeous volume and lengthening. Such a beautiful formula. Cake by Rowan, also a very beautiful formula. It does not build quite as much volume. I did end up preferring this one. It also is in a metal package, whereas this one is in plastic. So if you aren't angered by smudging, if smudging is something that doesn't, like you are willing to put up with a little bit of smudging for a great lengthening, clean formula, I would go with the Kosas, but both of these were a fail for me in terms of money spent because you know I'm always gonna go for a tubing formula at the end of the day, and it's because I've never found one that really impresses me that isn't a tubing formula. So yeah, that's all about those. And then the only other one that I consider a fail is the Urban Decay Lash Freak. Urban Decay, I feel like we really swung for the fences on this one, and I feel like just anecdotally the internet agrees that this is a great formula. It is just this weird friggin' brush that they did, and this is why it's called Lash Freak, I'm pretty sure. So this was literally the point of the product, was that it has this wackadoo brush on it. And so, I don't know, I was, again, watching Jamie French, and she goes, the mascara doesn't wipe off of it when you take it out of the tube. I have seen her using it on her lower lashes. It's a really, really beautiful formula, but it's so messy. It's so hard to use because this little brush just gets mascara every darn where. But God, what a pretty formula. It's a shame. Urban Decay also put out their, God, this is really hard to use, their Stone Vibes palette this year. I love that palette. It's gonna be hard, like I think it's gonna be especially hard to pick a favorite eyeshadow palette this year. So you can see that's really pretty, but like that brush is like, it's an anxiety attack. Honestly. Thrive is just so much easier to use. And yeah, you know, I have muscle memory for it, but it's also just a regular brush. And the only thing left to do is talk about this Say Beauty lip gloss. I mean, again, it's not a terrible product. I'm only talking about it because it was in the Say Beauty release and it's really, really forgettable. I think it was like 16 bucks. And it won't come out of the tube. Oh God, 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 it's gonna explode, isn't it? Let me see here. Yuck. Ew, it like smells expired now. I've had this less than a year. Okay, well, I'm not putting that on my mouth, gross. There are almost no lip glosses that have wronged me, and so, yeah, I'm just gonna put something else on. Yeah, that's actually really surprising, and maybe adds to the unfavoriteness of Say Beauty is that it feels like all their stuff expired already. Clean formulas are going to have, you know, fewer or less effective, I guess, preservatives in them a lot of times, and so that is a really good example of what can happen. But yeah, this is like completely frozen in the tube. The brow product is completely frozen in the tube. I don't want to open that mascara, but I don't know, let's see. Mascara still looks normal. I don't know. All right, guys, this is the final look. Not by any means the worst face of makeup I've ever done on my channel, or even the worst one that we've done this year, okay? And I think, again, it's because I knew what to expect going in and how to make these things work. Use less of them, only use these shades. Make sure that you pick up enough product, things like that. But I still think that these things are worth sharing because there is a large margin, a great distance to travel between something being not awful and me recommending that you spend your hard-earned money on it. You know, I think that if you watch this and you're like, those weren't really that bad, Khaki, do you still think that you would go and put your money towards them? Exactly. So again, if these are products that you absolutely love and you make them work for you, that is fantastic. I want you to love everything you own. That's the main thing. I just want you guys to really like the purchases that you end up making. But these are just, if I were a regular makeup consumer, I would tell people to buy something else other than these things. Basically, this isn't just like, oh my God, huge fails, burn them. You know, it's just valuable comparison if you think that makeup should be easy and fun to use. These just aren't that easy and fun to use. So I hope that this was fun for you guys. I hope that these year-end videos make you guys happy. They are always really fun for me because I'm just like, ooh, we get to tie it up in a neat little bow. It's culminating all of the work that I did this year, trying things for you guys. And again, the next one is going to be, it'll be like an hour long at least. That's how those tend to go because I do every single category and we have so much good makeup this year. If you guys did enjoy this, do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much and I will see you in the next one.